Are you moving to Virginia Beach or moving to Norfolk or anywhere in Virginia and thinking about possibly buying a home located in a POA or an HOA? Or maybe a condo that's located in a condo association? In this video, we're going to talk about some pros and some cons that you definitely want to know about before you make that purchase. And we're going to start right now. Make sure to stay tuned to the end of this video. I'm going to give you a speed tour of a condo that I'm about to put on the market and sell here in Virginia Beach in the Dam Neck area specifically. It's probably going to be sold by the time you're watching this. Feel free to check with me. Either way, it'll give you an idea of what a 2-bedroom condo looks like and currently is selling for just under $300,000. The point of an association, and this applies to all associations across the board, is to maintain the value of the community, to help maintain the common ground areas, the swimming pool, the park, to help maintain the community. When you live in an association, your neighbor can't have 7 broke down vehicles parked out front. Your neighbor can't neglect mowing their grass for the whole summer season because there's rules and standards. That can be a pro and a con because we all know that stereotypical Karen that will go around with a clipboard and give you a notice because your mailbox height is not proper, whatever. Some associations do go too far. That's true, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them really do a good job at maintaining the community. The first thing I want to talk about is rental restrictions. This is mostly just going to apply to condos. The reason why you need to understand this is if you think you may want to turn it into a rental investment, or maybe you might get relocated again. If you're PCSing here, serving in our Navy or Air Force, then you want to be aware of this, because if you have to move again in 3 years from now, the market doesn't always go up as fast as what we've seen in 2021 and 2022. Real estate is designed for a long-term investment. You need to hold on to it for 5, 7, 10 years before you really see a good return on your investment. If you have to move, you may want to rent it. Condo associations oftentimes, almost all the time, have a limit on how many units can be rented at one time. If that limit has already been reached, your unit will be on a waiting list and sit vacant. That's not a good investment. The reason the association has to maintain that limit is if they exceed it, they can lose their FHA approval and lose their VA approval. That means they can't sell it to any FHA or VA buyers. 2 out of 3 buyers in this market in the Hampton Roads area are VA buyers. That would really hurt the property value. There are a few communities that don't care and that have already gone way past that and they're conventional loan only. Those do exist, but almost all of the condo communities are going to have some kind of a rental restriction. Also, they'll have restrictions on whether you can rent it month to month or a 6-month lease or a 12-month lease. Usually they require a 12-month lease. Another thing to consider if you're buying within an association is the assessments. This doesn't always come up, but it does sometimes, especially inside of a condo association. Oftentimes, condo associations will cover the exterior maintenance, they'll cover the roofs, they'll cover the crawl spaces. What if a lot of work needs to be done in the crawl spaces and all the roofs are old and they need to be replaced? If the association does not have the financial balance to cover all that, which oftentimes they don't, they vote in an assessment that they charge to all the owners in the community. They oftentimes allow 3 or 4 installment payments, but it's not optional. You have to pay it. Another reason why they may have an assessment come up is if the association and the community votes in a new lighting system or a gated entrance. Who's going to pay for the gated entrance? If they don't have the financials to afford it, if they vote that in, that means the community is going to pay for it. These things don't come up very often, but they do come up, and that's why I'm mentioning it. So when you're buying inside of an association, you're going to receive all the documents from that community. In our market, when you receive those documents, you get 3 days to review those. And you should be working with a good real estate agent that can help you read through it. As promised, I'm going to show you a condo that I'm about to put on the market for $295,000 in the Dam Neck area of Virginia Beach. So if you're living in Virginia Beach or you're thinking about moving to Virginia Beach, you may want to consider a condo like this if you want to be somewhere that's somewhat close to Sandbridge, but also close to the ocean front. It's really a prime location. Located in the Wellington community, you can get a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom condo right now for $295,000. This has a fireplace, which is rare for a lot of condos to actually have a fireplace. Also has a really functional layout with 2 primary bedrooms upstairs that each have their own bathroom. And then of course there's a half bathroom downstairs for the convenience of having guests over. It's a very nice condo, and again, one of the things that's really going to stand out about this is the location of it. I think it's very desirable to live in this community. I had some buyers that I was working with buying inside of the Riverwalk community. We found out there was a $26,000 assessment due. Before we were too far into it, we were able to release them and walk away from the contract. It's negotiable who has to pay for that assessment. If the seller can get around not paying it, oh, they would love to sell it and let someone else pay for it. When I'm negotiating that, I look at it like this. What's the assessment for? If it's for deferred maintenance, which was the case in that scenario, then my buyers didn't live there when the roofs were being worn and torn. The deferred maintenance is something that happened before we even lived there. It seems more fair to me that the sellers would pay for that deferred maintenance assessment. In this case, it was 26 grand. If the community is going to install a new lighting system or a dog park, that's an upgrade to the community, and it's not really fair the sellers would pay for that when they're not even going to live there anymore by the time that work is done. That's all negotiable, but you want to be aware. Depending on your lifestyle and your goals, you definitely are going to want to be aware of the rules in that community. Are you allowed to put a privacy fence up? Are you allowed to install a swimming pool? Are you allowed to have a trampoline in your yard? Do they allow you to park an extra vehicle in the street? If you're buying a condo, like an apartment style condo, sometimes they can even have restrictions on smoking. There's a new law that went into effect a few years ago that allows associations to actually put restrictions on smoking. They specifically did that for apartments and buildings. Also, you want to be aware of any pet restrictions. If you have a dog, or maybe you have multiple dogs, some communities have restrictions on how many animals you're allowed to have. Some communities have restrictions on the size of the animal. Elijah here is a golden doodle. He's about maybe 50 pounds. He would pass in most cases. Sometimes they have a restriction of 35 pounds or less. I've seen that mostly in condos. It's rare I ever see pet restrictions outside of condominiums, but I've seen it before inside of a property owners association where they had a restriction on only 3 animals or less. If you have 2 cats and a dog, but you also have a bird or something, you're technically in violation. If you have emotional support animal and you have paperwork for that, then you should be exempt to any of those rules and protected under the Fair Housing Act. Another thing you will want to be aware of is the insurance coverage that may come with the association fee, specifically again for a condo. Oftentimes when buying a condo, the exterior stuff is covered and maybe a master flood policy that's covered under the association fee. So it could make your homeowner's insurance cheaper. Another thing to consider when buying inside of an association is the parking. As I mentioned earlier, look at the bylaws and see what the rules are as far as parking in the street. Some of these neighborhoods don't even have room to park in the street. Some of them have guest parking. Oftentimes you'll find that with condos. Be aware of how many guest parking spots there actually are compared to how many units are in that community. If you're viewing it in the daytime, you may find that everybody's at work. Come back later that evening and take a look at it so you can see what the parking really looks like in the evening when everybody's home. Feel free to ask one of the neighbors. You'll probably see somebody walking their dog around the community. They probably have all the answers to all your questions. And feel free to reach out to me if I can help with anything. I am here for you as a resource. If you found some value in this video, please do me a favor and tap that like button and subscribe to this channel.